Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. All right, folks, this is a very exciting day. I'm very excited because this is the first day that we get to vote in Trump's second administration. This is the opportunity for us to make our presence known and to make sure our voices are heard. This is our first chance to say no to Project 2025. No to doing away with civil rights enforcement. No to anti-black policies. No to the appointment of far-right judges. No to anti-DEI policies that are targeted to us black people. And no to a whole lot of other stuff that's just completely decimating the African-American community. Like firing a disproportionate percentage of African-American workers in the federal government. This is our chance to say no to every single bit of that, to erasing black history, all of it. This is our first chance, not our only chance, but this is our first chance. Because there are some pretty big elections across the country. Now, we got the midterm coming up in about a year from now, but today there are also some pretty big elections that I want to read an article and talk to you about and hopefully encourage some of you who were not even planning to go vote if you're in one of these states to encourage you to go vote. All right? So let's go to another screen and let's read about it. So the NPR put out this article, and so let's read it. It says, voting concludes Tuesday for elections in a number of states and localities, and perhaps the highest profile contest is one that was only scheduled a few months ago. A special election in California allows the state's voters to weigh in on what is now a cross-country redistricting battle between the two major parties ahead of next year's midterm elections. Here are details on that contest and three others we're watching this election day. So California redistricting. They'll be voting on something called Proposition 50, and it would replace California's current congressional lines with a map favoring Democrats. The maneuver is Governor Gavin Newsom's answer to President Trump pushing Texas and other GOP-led states to withdraw their congressional districts maps to give Republicans a better chance of hanging on to the party's slim majority here in the U.S. House. If voters approve Prop 50, which appears likely, the new districts could help Democrats win up to 5 more House seats in the 2026, 2028, and 2030 elections. The proposition is written to expire after the 2030 election, returning line drawing power to the state's existing Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Now, this is really, really, really important. And dare I say it is the most important act of righteous defiance against the Trump administration, against MAGA, against Project 2025, against authoritarianism that people will vote on today. So if you live in the state of California, you must go vote for Prop 50 so that Trump is not able to rig, because that's what this is about. He's trying to rig the 2026 midterm. How? Because if he can get Texas and if he can get other GOP states to redraw their maps and get additional House members without voting or despite voting, then that's rigging the 2026 election. Okay? So the Democrats have decided to fight fire with fire. But none of that means anything if Black Americans don't get out and vote. You got to vote. If anybody tells you, discourages you in any way from voting, you look them in their eye and tell them, get thee behind me, Satan, because I'm going to exercise my right to vote so that I can have a say in the direction that my country goes. And I wish I had time to expound on what that means. Okay? But for now, I'm going to keep reading this article. But you tell that devil, get behind me, like Jesus told Satan, because that is coming from nowhere but from a dark place, telling Black people not to vote. And especially not to vote against this anti-Black regime that is in the White House right now. All right, now let's go back to the article. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, a self-described Democratic socialist and front-runner in the race for mayor of the nation's biggest city, trounced former Governor Andrew Cuomo and 9 other Democrats in the primary by running a grassroots campaign. There are the 3 pictures of those who are still remaining. Curtis Sliwa, I believe his name is. Again, Mamdani and Cuomo. Those are the ones who remain. But anyway, Mamdani inspired younger voters through a relentless focus on making New York City more affordable. His primary win energized portions of the party's base while making him a foil for Republicans across the country. Now, I got to say, I am not for socialism. I am not for democratic socialist. But I absolutely understand why young voters are looking in his direction, because what has been offered so far by establishment Democrats and Republicans, especially Republicans, with this trickle-down economics that has enriched everybody but working people. And so a lot of these young people are coming out of college with student loan debts. A lot of those who don't want to go to college, who want to get a trade, all of that's not working out for a lot of these young people, especially in a place like New York City, where rents are just exorbitantly expensive. I get it. So I can understand them looking in that direction. But for me personally, no, I'm not for a democratic socialist. Not at all. Now, would I be voting for Cuomo? I don't know. I don't live in the state of New York, in the city of New York. I have family, lots of family who live there, and everybody's going to vote in the direction that they want to vote. All right, so I really don't have any offering here. This goes on to say Cuomo opted to stay in the mayor's race by running as an independent. He's criticized Mamdani as too inexperienced to deal with Trump. Cuomo has also argued that the state legislator's campaign platform, which includes free buses and universal child care, can't be delivered. If elected, Mamdani would be the city's first Muslim mayor, and at 34, its youngest in more than a century. So that's an interesting election going on in New York City. It's important just to show that we are absolutely turned off and we reject and defy Trump's policies. All right, as African Americans. But it's not as important nationwide as Prop 50 is in California. So I want to keep pushing you. If you live in that state, you go vote, no matter what you got going on today. And by the way, a bunch of you have already voted. So I'm hoping that a bunch of those votes in a blue state like California have already provided enough votes for Prop 50. Anyway, there is the governor's race in New Jersey. The 2 leading candidates for governor in New Jersey are locked in a tight race. Now, let me tell you beforehand, I am not familiar with how to pronounce Jack's last name, so I'm not even going to try. Let's just keep reading. Trump has been telecampaigning for Jack, the Republican candidate, a former small business owner who narrowly lost the gubernatorial election 4 years ago. Democratic Representative Mikey Sherrill, a former Navy pilot, held in an endorsement rally. There are those two. Let's go back and just face them there for a second. Mikey, that's a male name, I guess, but it's the Navy pilot there. Go Navy. I'm a Navy vet. And then there's Jack. All right? No disrespect to Jack. I don't want him to win. He's Trump aligned, but I'm not being disrespectful for not trying to pronounce his name. Don't want to mess it up. Anyway, former President Barack Obama on Saturday has a slight edge over Jack in recent polling. Now, I've been reading that blacks are not really as fired up for this election as we need you all to be. So you need to get fired up about this. All right. All of this sends a loud message, to Trump and MAGA concerning Project 2025 and all the rest. All you got to ask yourself as an African American is, do I want more Project 2025, more anti-blackness, more far-right judges, more Ted Cruz, more of that whole crowd? Or do I want change? Even if you voted for Trump as an African American, you've probably, hopefully, by now seen that that was not a good vote, that he bamboozled not only African Americans, but Latinos, farmers, whole lot of white people. Look at those 7 million white people, mostly, because a lot of us weren't there, but 7 million white people, many of them GOP, who went out at this last No Kings march to say, we don't like the direction the country's going in. Food is high, the National Guard all over the place, and so on. Anyway, polls also show issues like housing affordability and high electric bills are top of voters' minds, but the contest has been dominated in recent weeks by personal attacks on both sides. If Cheryl wins, it would be the first time since the 1960s that New Jersey voters elected a governor from the same party 3 terms in a row. Democrats are hopeful that history may be on their side, as the party in power in the White House typically loses the race for governor in Virginia. In her campaign, Democratic Abigail Spanberger, a former member of Congress, has hammered the rising cost of living and voter anxiety over the Trump administration's cuts to the federal workforce. And again, that has really hit African Americans hard, disproportionately hard. The Republican, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, has campaigned on tackling crime, lower taxes, and calls to ban transgender students from girls' sports and bathrooms in public schools. Now, what's interesting with her is Trump didn't even endorse her. The last I read, he had not endorsed her. Maybe he did since then. But that was the last that I read. So even the chief MAGA, in office has not seen fit to endorse this woman. And just because she's black does not mean that she deserves our vote. All your skin folk ain't your kinfolks. And that's absolutely applicable to this woman. Even if Trump didn't support her, she's still Trump aligned, and she's going to support nearly everything he wants from her. And him not endorsing her just may be because he doesn't want to give black voters a reason to oppose her. It may be a trick. It may be a little trick going on here. Anyway, here they are. Ms. Sears and Ms. Spanberger. Either candidate will make history as Virginia's first female governor. Earl Sears would be the first black woman elected governor in the U.S. All right. Even that is not good enough. We had an opportunity to have the first black female president, and many blacks voted against her. You say, well, yeah, because she ain't black. That woman is just as black as I am. And I don't know how you can get any blacker than me, not because of my skin hue, but because, one, of my DNA, and two, my heart my thinking, my culture, and so on. Kamala Harris affirmed over and over and over that she is a black woman. So just because this woman is dark-skinned, if she is aligned with the anti-black policies of the Trump administration and Project 2025, she's not all that black in her heart, in her thinking. Because those policies, those Trump anti-black policies, those GOP anti-black policies, they have cost us a lot. I believe they're about to cost us Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, as they did Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act in 2013. So if you want more of that, if you want someone in Virginia, if you live in Virginia, and you want someone in office who will help the GOP finish gutting the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, all those civil rights laws that were put in place 60 years ago, then she's your woman. But hopefully, I pray you got much better sense than that, because it's not just about you, it's about your children, your grandchildren, and so on. All right, so those are the races that we have going on today, and there are a whole lot of local races too. I don't want to forget those. We got some constitutional amendments here in Texas, for example. So all over the state, there are all kinds of very important local elections, and you've heard me say many times, we got to be engaged in all of them. All right, so Prop 50, folks, go out and support Prop 50 so Trump cannot rig the 2026 midterms. Also, go out and support Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey so that a Trump-aligned governor does not take over that state. And go out and support Ms. Spanberger in the state of Virginia so that a black woman who is aligned with Trump does not take leadership in that state. All right, so thank you for watching this video. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And until the next time, remember, stay woke.